Here we go again, another season of training and racing, and not much has changed from last year, except no half Ironman, and I got a year older, putting me into the 50 club age group. Awesome news. This year was quieter than previous summers, with only a few races planned on the calendar. My A race this summer was taking place all the way down in Windsor, Ontario. Windsor was the host city of the 2022 Can-Am Police and Fire Games. The games took place during the last week of July, and over 600 athletes made the trip to Windsor to compete in 36 different events. Athletes from over 80 agencies across Canada, the United States, and even as far away as the Isle of Man traveled to take part in this event, which takes place every 2 years, offsetting the World Police Fire Games. I took part in the World Games in 2015 and 2017 in the cycling events and had a blast. So this year was an opportunity for me to compete in my first Can-Am Games. I followed the same routine as last year. Early swims, hard efforts on the trainer, and more speed work at the track. Everything else stayed the same. Good nutrition, chucking the weights around a few days a week, and of course, housework. When I wasn't training, I still managed to find some time for some light reading. Yes, some things never change. One thing did change though. I had a new training partner. Alicia rarely missed an event, and year after year, she was always there cheering me on. This year was a different story. Lindy was tired of being a spectator and started training, and she loved it. She competed in her first duathlon in Ottawa this year, finishing first in her age, and she was hooked. It was a much different picture of us this year at the finish line. This summer, Alicia was busy working on her cycling and getting used to the time trial bike and being down in the bars. It was great to see her progress and nice to have a new hobby that we could take part in together. The end of July came quickly, and before we knew it, we were on our way to Windsor. The trip to Windsor from Kingston's a long one, so we were fortunate enough to tie in our trip to a visit back home. Home for me, that is. We couldn't make a trip south without stopping in Simcoe, seeing my parents, and without a doubt my biggest fan and best pal on the planet, my sister Carolyn.
Hello, Mama.
Carolyn and I are 2 years apart, and she was born with Down syndrome. When we were young, we were pretty much inseparable, and that didn't change much over the years, as today, we are still best pals. We don't see each other in person as often as we used to, but we FaceTime every night at 9 o'clock, and it's a routine that hasn't changed for many years now. Carolyn has brought me so much joy in my life, and when I'm down, she always finds a way to put a smile on my face. Love you, sis. While we were home, Alicia and I also had a chance for one more decent training effort, and then we were off to Windsor for our races. If you have ever made the drive to Windsor, then you'll be familiar with how dreadfully long of a drive it is. The scenery along the way is not that great, with the only thing to look at is wind turbines and transports. But after 2.5 hours, we made it. With the drive out of the way, it was time to settle in for the next 6 days. Our first stop was the hotel to drop our stuff off and what was home for the next week. If you ever have an extended stay in Windsor, the Town Place and Suites is where you want to go. The service was 5-star, the room was amazing, and it's close to everything. Caesar's Palace was the host venue for the entire games, and it was here that we had to go and sign in for our races. Alicia and I were both signed up for the 20-kilometer cycling time trial and the 5-kilometer running road race. Both events were on the Wednesday, so we had a couple days to ourselves to see the sights and prepare for our events. Alicia and I made a trip to Amherstburg, which is about 30 minutes outside of Windsor and host of a few of the cycling events, including the time trial. We had a chance to recon the course, and we were pleased to see a safe route, but a course with awesome road conditions. We were ready for race day. We could not have asked for a better day to race a time trial. Perfect weather, perfect roads, and solid competition. We had approximately 25 participants, and Alicia had a solid effort in her first ever time trial race, finishing the course in just under 38 minutes. We both got our medals for our efforts, and then it was back to Windsor for a quick recovery before our 5-kilometer running race. The legs were hurting, but we were excited for race number 2. The pace was fast, and we were both impressed at the quality of the field. It was a nice simple course, out and back along Windsor's beautiful riverfront path. I crossed the finish line just in front of Alicia, and I was there to cheer on a few other athletes, as well as to watch Alicia cross the line with one of her best 5K efforts. Thanks to John Chan, who was kind enough to capture the moment and take a still of us at the end of the race. Now, we had a few days until I took part in the triathlon, which was the final event of the games. So we took the time to attend a few of the other venues and cheer on the athletes. We attended the mountain bike race, which was filled with some pretty exciting riding. These riders were really moving, and it was wicked to get up close to the action. It was also nice to be a spectator for a change.
Good job.
That's why I feel like I go through hell, damn. Wasting time on your dreams instead of mine, yeah. About to turn this franchise around on a dime, man. I think about others way before myself, yeah. I guess that's why I feel like I go through hell, damn.
All right! Woo! Good job, Andy.
We also ventured back down to the waterfront where the 10-kilometer running race was held. Participants during the Can-Am Games were not just first responders and their families, but they also allowed community members to register and compete against the first responders. The 5 and the 10K runs were a real draw for the competitors, and just as in the 5K, there were some amazing runners and some very impressive finishing times. It was awesome to see how hard everyone was working, but more importantly, they were having fun, and that's what this stuff is all about.
Hey Annie, you beat fire. You beat fire.
We did spend quite a bit of our time during our stay in Windsor at the waterfront, and on Saturday, one of the biggest draws for the spectators is the Fire Fit competition. This was just awesome to watch and a first for me. Several teams from different fire services took part in a variety of categories, and it was just incredible to see the athleticism, strength, and determination to navigate this course and try to get the fastest time. The teamwork and camaraderie among these firefighters is something to behold. They work as a team and they finish as a team, cheering on their teammate and fellow competitor right to the end. It was amazing to watch, and if you ever get a chance to check out a Fire Fit competition, make sure you go. The moment that really blew me away on this day was the sheer determination and never quit attitude of a female firefighter whose job it was to drag Rescue Randy across the finish line to stop the clock. What impressed me was that she did this twice in back-to-back races. The camaraderie rallying around her was truly inspiring. It was try time. The triathlon was the final event of the games, and it was the one I was most looking forward to. The triathlon was being run in partnership with the Tecumseh Triathlon Club event, which organizes and hosts a few races through the year. And I can see why. The venue was incredible with the water, the highway, and the paved park path designed perfectly to host a triathlon event. This was the first race being run since COVID struck, so everyone was pumped to compete again after a long layoff. I was feeling pretty good going into the race, and I was super impressed at the amount of volunteers who were on hand to keep us safe in the water as well as on the road. It was so well organized, and I have to tip my hat to the Games Committee and the Tecumseh Tri Club for putting on such a safe race.
Almost forgot my goggles.
The first responder long course athletes got things started with a 1,000-meter swim. It was a quick start, with a few of us getting a bit of a gap early. Five minutes later, the sprint triathletes got going for their 800-meter swim. The conditions were perfect for the swim as the water was like glass. There were some quick times out of the water, but a few of us who started the long course eventually formed a group with the sprint triathletes, and many of us exited the water at the same time. I had a pretty good swim, except for a quick hiccup at the halfway mark, where I had to slow things down a bit. Once out of the water, there was a long transition into T1. My transition went pretty smooth, and I managed to get out quick and brace myself for 2 laps of a 32-kilometer loop. The course was flawless and was on some of the smoothest roads I've ever raced on. I had a great ride and another good transition, and now I just needed to get through the 6.5K run. Like in the running events this week, there were some incredible triathletes and a number of really good runners. Each lap we passed a ton of supporters who were cheering on all the athletes. It always makes a difference when you hear the cheers of the family and friends watching and you somehow find another gear to keep going.
First responders, Gregory Anderson from Kingston.
Hey, Gregory! Woo!
I was happy with my race finishing 4th of the first responders and 1st in my age group. I grabbed another medal on this day to cap off a good week. And just like that, the games were done. I can't say enough though about the organization of this event. It was top notch. We had an amazing time taking part in the 2022 Can-Am Games. The entire week was flawless. A special thank you to Walkerville Brewery in Windsor, who made a delicious Pilsner dedicated to the games. Well done. Butler County, Pennsylvania are hosting the games in 2024. We look forward to seeing everyone there.